This is the exterior of my 2004 Airstream Safari 25SS. I have owned this Airstream since it was new in the 2004 model year. I bought it on April 5th of 2004. I believe it was built sometime around January 2004. This Airstream has been over 40,000 miles around the United States. I believe it's closer to approximately 44,000 miles. When it was in its real travel days, the axles were greased every 2 years or 10,000 miles as the instructions indicate. This is not a self-greasing axle system, and I have it on great authority that regardless of whether you have the self-greasing axle system, they still need to be greased. An expert in Airstreams told me that a long time ago. As you can see, it is really nice shape on the exterior. The beautiful thing about Airstreams is the fact that they last. No one who isn't an expert in Airstreams would know that this is a 2004 model. I know that I've been to a number of private, larger, more restrictive communities to have an RV, and many times they have a rule that you can't have an Airstream, or not an Airstream, you can't have an RV that's over 10 years old. Because most RVs after 10 years, not so much anymore, but certainly back in the day, most RVs showed their age actually rather quickly. Fiberglass fades, it flakes, the decals come off because people don't know how to take care of them, and they look old relatively fast. I remember once I was at an RV park in Albuquerque asking about long-term stay, and they had a rule about 10 years. And I told them I have an Airstream, and he said, don't worry about it, it's fine. So as you can see, it is well done. Now, obviously, every RV that has been towed or driven is going to have chips and dents in the front. This one is no exception. I've tried to keep that to a minimum. One of the things that I think is most interesting about my Airstream is that when I was in the midst of towing it around the country, one of my rules was that I set the cruise control at 52 miles an hour. Now, and stayed in the right lane. And interestingly enough, I got there. Many times I have seen, particularly travel trailers, race by, and we have a plane going over that I will cut out. Many times I have seen, particularly a fifth wheel or a toy hauler, and specifically with 3 axles, and they're racing down the road because they've got this big dually pickup truck diesel doing well over the speed limit for the tires, and all of a sudden I'll be driving along and they're sitting on the side of the road with a flat tire, and I'm just cruising on down the highway. It really is the story of the tortoise and the hare. It's had 3 sets of tires. These tires have been on since 2013, and they're in really good shape. They've only got about 4,000 miles on them. However, as anybody knows, trailer tires do need to be replaced at least every 5 or 6 years, regardless of whether they've been. These look really great underneath those covers, and I have had the Airstream covered up, those tires covered up, whenever it is parked for a long period of time. That has helped keep them, but I do know that they do need to be replaced. The awning on this side is not standard with an Airstream, and in fact, I believe awning packages on some of the models is still something that, and we have another plane coming in. All right, so we'll try again. This awning, this street side awning, is something that I had put on after. It is a zip-D awning. It is the same color as the other side. It is the exact same material. This is the awning that would come on a 25-foot Airstream if it came from the factory. It's the exact same one. It did not come with that, but when I moved in the particular spot that this Airstream is currently sitting in, I knew that I would have a lot of sun exposure on this side of the trailer through much of the day, and it is there to not only protect the heat from the inside of the Airstream, but also to protect the refrigerator. As you can see, the refrigerator venting system is right there above the tires. As I said on my interior video, I believe there's only one thing that Airstream, the manufacturer, ever did that I had to fix. Anything else that's ever been fixed on this Airstream is things that were produced by the various parts companies that build parts for RVs. Now, so, you know, I think that is incredibly telling in the context that you have something that is amazingly well built. If you go to a big RV show, I go to the Los Angeles RV show every October. It used to be called the Pomona Show. It's now in Fontana. One of the things that is so clear is when you go inside one of these coaches and then you go in any other RV, and I do mean any other RV, the build quality is just not as good. It's just not as good. But the other thing about this is the fact that Airstreams are not cheap. They are usually 3 times the price of something of a different RV being of a different travel trailer. So in other words, a travel trailer of 25, 26 feet, similar to this, but a basic square travel trailer, would run, say, $30,000 new right now. And a new Airstream of this level, which is now the flying cloud level. At the time, this Airstream was the Safari trim. But under the current Airstream, if you were to get a 25 rear bed Airstream today, that would be around, it would be retail close to 100 and probably out the door somewhere in the 80s. So based on that, you can see that it's treble the amount of what it would take to buy a basic Airstream. I got to cut that out. What it would cost 3 times as much to buy a brand new Airstream as it would to buy a regular trailer. So it becomes a question of what are you up for? You know, a lot of people are buying Airstreams these days because they're not in the mood for stair stepping. In other words, starting out with one and then moving on to something larger or something better. For example, an Airstream. And one of the things that most people do not know is this is a dream to tow. This is an absolute dream to tow. If you see that belt line down there that's at the very bottom of the door, that is the center of gravity for this coach. It sits lower than most coaches do. It has a lower center of gravity. It is almost impossible to tip over. Another plane coming in. This must be that time of day. There is a wonderful video on YouTube of a Porsche Cayenne towing an Airstream, and I believe it's the size of this one, if I'm not mistaken. And it takes it through a slalom course, and the Airstream just follows. It just follows. It just follows. It doesn't go, you know, it doesn't pitch or anything. And then they do the same thing with the box trailer, and the box trailer actually goes off of its wheels. The other thing that's interesting about this travel trailer, or Airstreams in general, is that a lot of people have the false impression that fifth wheels are very stable because of the fact that the hitch is in the bed of the truck. The problem, once again, with a fifth wheel, just like other travel trailers, is the fact that the center of gravity is too high, and that the RVs in general are too high, and that can cause a problem much greater. I hope you have enjoyed this first take on the exterior of my Airstream. I think I'm going to do another video on it and talk about it again, but I have enjoyed doing this, and I hope you have too, and I'm going to edit out the airplanes, and thank you so much for listening.